All right. Now the actual credits. I can at last say Final Fantasy 16 has been conquered. Ooh-wee. What a game. Lot of crazy things happened with this game. And interestingly enough, I've had an extremely difficult time writing down my thoughts for this game, and I don't really have a good reason for it. There's just sometimes I'll play a game and like something will be weird about how my thoughts kind of collect about how I feel about it or the things that I want to like specifically call out. And and this is just one of those games where I don't necessarily know everything that I want to say about it, and that's kind of disappointing for me. But I can say that my overall thoughts. I'll start off with for a really long time. I felt like something was off with the game. I this could be another one of the reasons why I haven't been able to write down my thoughts for the game. But I felt like something was different about this game in a way that like affected how I approached it and thought about it and like played it and viewed its characters and things like that. Um, I don't know if it's like a positive off or a negative off, but just like there was like a small little tilt, that made things difficult for me. And I just can't put my finger on it. But I will say overall thoughts. Um, I had fun with the game. I had a lot of fun playing this game. I don't necessarily know if I like the game. Like it I enjoyed playing it. The the interactions, the combat, things like that were really cool, but I'm just not 100% on board with I guess the storytelling techniques, maybe the things that certain things, how like certain things are conveyed. Um, I don't know if I ever wrote this down, but uh, if if you ever if you ever played Final Fantasy 14, you can see the I don't want necessarily want to say influence, but like you could see the style choices because there's a specific way that Final Fantasy 14 approaches itself. And this game, I think, takes after Final Fantasy 14 in a lot of ways, both big and small. A small way, for example, is like when you're doing certain quests, maybe side quests or whatever. You take a quest from somebody, you go off and you go do something, and then that same quest giver, when they were supposed to be busy with something else, runs up to you after you finished your objective, and they're like, "Oh, something, 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 something." And like that happens all the time in Final Fantasy 14. And it happens in this game too. It's just a tiny little thing, but those tiny little things add up. And then there's some big things as well that harken back to Final Fantasy 14. So I felt a lot of familiarity in that regard. But yeah, this is definitely one of those weird spots. I I I don't know if I dislike the game, but I don't think I'm at the point where I like the game. But I don't know. For the story, was it satisfying? I don't really know. I don't even know if you guys can hear me over this, but I'll fix this in post. I'm gonna say it was satisfying, but like just barely. And I might even change my mind as I continue down my thoughts. But did it feel complete? I will say it felt complete. I think they closed off the main story arc, and there was really nothing else that needed to be done there. A little disappointed in the ending, but things happen. How's the pacing? I did basically every side quest that I could get my hands on that I saw, and all the hunts. So that kind of threw the pacing out of whack. But other than that, like, I think the story did a pretty good job of keeping things on track. There were some moments where you would go off and do like these random things, and that wasn't necessarily a good thing, but it wasn't, they weren't like super crazy, and they ended up working out in the end. I will say that the time skip, the 5-year time skip, that destroyed so many pacing things for me. For thoughts on the story, speaking of time skip, the time skip after Joshua saves us from Ultima turned the game down a dark path. As a player, we were presented with so many questions, and we were unable to get those answers for 5 years of in-game time. This is a really disappointing thing for me, because I don't necessarily know that the time skip was necessary. And it would have just been so much more interesting to build up to that point and then get the payoff of, we just finally reunited with Joshua, we're learning things about Ultima, our main villain, and we're going down a path together. But instead they go down a time skip, and then they don't address those questions that were presented there for either a good amount of time, the vast majority of the game, or up until like the very final moments of the game. And even one question of what's going on with Ultima and Joshua sealing him with the Phoenix powers, that never really got addressed in any way. Like, we can assume that Ultima just has like a bunch of homies, and that was just one of the homies, but I wanted more confirmation on that. Despite doing so many side quests, like, we didn't really learn about Ultima while we were going on. Harpocrates was working on learning as much as he could, but just wasn't going anywhere. And I really wish we got to engage with that more. I understand that there's a lot of plots needing to unravel, but Clive working to become the next Cid seems like an important juncture, and skipping over that didn't feel good. Yeah, in terms of the time skip, I didn't like that we skipped over him becoming Clive. That's 5 years of in-game time that they threw in a lot of things in those 5 years and glossed over it, which I'm sure is a really nice way of progressing the story forward. But I felt like those were super important moments, How about seeing the grief of Sid dying for everybody? How about seeing some time where Joshua and Clive, maybe Joshua leaves beforehand or something like that, but we like let us see the interactions. Let us see Clive chasing after Joshua now that he knows that he's alive. Let us see Clive take up the mantle of Sid, and how Hugo is crushing his every move and laying all these traps and things like that. You know, like build up those characters more so that the other moments that we have with them later on in the game are much more impactful. And then this one. This is the one that hurts the most. I think Sid died too soon. I get it, you know? He's the launching pad that we use to basically grow our own wings, you know? We hop out of the nest with his death, and we actually learn to fly. But this is just one of those things where I think Sid's character was so good that when he died, the quality of the game just dropped a lot. And that's like such a cool thing, but also such a disappointing thing, because whenever Sid was around, like, those scenes were really nice. He added so much to the game, and when he left, there was really nothing there to fill the void. And so the only thing that could have happened was the game drops in quality and intrigue and greatness. For the characters, we don't spend enough time with a bunch of characters to really drive it home what they're about. Barnabas, I feel like he's a very important villain that we don't really get to learn anything about, or enough about. Hugo, I think Hugo was a huge antagonist that we could have spent like 3 acts on Hugo. You know, chasing him down, trying to avoid his traps, doing all kinds of crazy things to interact but not interact with Hugo. Hugo had probably the craziest boss fight of any of the boss fights in this game. His icon fight was like probably the most epic out of every single one of them. And to me, it kind of feels like maybe there was supposed to be more there. Maybe he was supposed to be later on in the game or something like that. But Hugo was there. I felt like there definitely needed to be more for Hugo. Ultima, I wish we interacted more with Ultima, at least learned more about him. Joshua, like, Joshua just comes back and then he has, you know, these ninjas with him all of a sudden, and it's like we still don't really get to learn about this character as much as we would like to. Yote is another character. Yote gets incredibly disrespected. You know, as soon as the opportunity is given to her to show how awesome she is to the player, Joshua's like, oh, no, I don't need you anymore. Like, come on, let her join the party or something. Let us go on some quest with her or something like that. Come on. And Annabelle, like, we know she's a suckafu at the start of the game, but there were many more opportunities that we could have had to interact with her and just deal with those problems. Oh yeah, we never got anything about Tyler either. Maybe that's the side quest that I missed. Maybe I missed a side quest with Tyler somewhere. We're learning more about Tyler. Let's see. And Jill really is disrespected in this game. Jill's probably the character that is just the most unfortunate of all the characters. She's used as a plot device. She can't seem to accomplish anything in pivotal moments where her strength matters. Fight against the liquid flame, she effectively did nothing. You know, there were multiple opportunities for her to do something, and something else that I'm forgetting. When we were escaping from Barnabas, like, I'll create a tunnel. You know, like, come on. Jill is so much more powerful than that. She's so much more of a character than just being used the way she was. And it was so sad to see Jill used in that manner. Gameplay mechanics and design. What gameplay elements stand out? I've mentioned this for a long time, but I wish there was a mini-map. I think this game would benefit a lot from a mini-map. You can't save on the world map. This was a really interesting choice, and this, ultimately doesn't really matter that much, but I wish you could save on the world map. Upgrading abilities is nice, although I'm not all too convinced on mastering them. The cost is very high, when the benefits only seem to be equipping them on different icons. This could just be a playstyle thing for me, but I didn't see a whole lot of use in mastering abilities. I felt like if they reduced the cost, or there was, if they told you like, oh yeah, these increase in power too, then yeah, I'll master some abilities. But to put them on other icons didn't really entice me enough to spend, 6,000 points. So, yeah. For combat, I think the combat is fun. There are plenty of options and ways to customize the play style. I really enjoyed the combat here. I think that the style of play that I used also really worked for me, because I was able to execute dodges and aspects of dodges that I probably, wouldn't normally do in an action game. And that one accessory that turns my dodges into super dodges with increased attack potency, once I equipped that, it all worked out. So I had a lot of fun with the combat. I think the combat is fun, is varied, and something that I don't have here is the boss fights in this game are all absolutely amazing. I had so much fun with every single boss fight. They were all just cool with all these cool abilities, and they had these crazy overlaps sometimes. I think the stagger meter was used in a really cool way. I don't like that there are certain circumstances where the stagger meter will refresh, like in between cutscenes and things like that. That's super annoying. Yeah, I think they did a really good job with this combat, and I can see potentially how they could maybe add in some extra stuff, because all things considered, even though you have a lot of options, there aren't actually a lot of things to do in the combat. There have been plenty of times where my abilities are on cooldown, or I'm waiting to use my abilities for a specific moment. So I'm just doing the bread and butter, attack, square, triangle combination. And one of the ways that we can avoid a little bit of that is give me some more powers, give me another icon or something like that, so that specific icon can be used to get the stagger meter down further, or more HP or whatever. Hey, digital hearts, let's go. So I think that would be cool. I also think that the Odin powers are absolutely atrocious. Could just be me, you know? I mean, I I don't think that using Odin on regular enemies is worth using, but maybe I was using it wrong. I don't know. Um, I will say, actually, for Bahamut, for the Mega Flare, I think the play style of that is a little awkward for an action game like this. It's really weird to have a focus of, you know, like dashing in or moving in to attack, do the combos, and like dodging attacks. And then you have this ability where you just kind of wait and you sit around and you wait for a meter to fill up, and you can dodge to make, like, perfectly dodge attacks to make the meter fill up faster. It's a really strange play style. It ended up working out a lot for me because there are a lot of moments where it's like, okay, I need to sit back and observe the battlefield, and those were kind of useful moments to have. But like as a play style kind of thing, it did feel like it interrupted the flow. So I wonder if they could approach that in a different way. For dungeons, I don't have anything for dungeons. For Cardinal Sins, I'm not really gonna call this a party game. You know, I think this is a single protagonist type game. So I don't think there's anything to worry about as far as like backup party earning less experience or anything like that. So I don't think I have anything for Cardinal Sins. For Miscellaneous Sound, the sound balance is extremely disappointing. I've never had to boost the volume of a game so high just to be able to hear the most important parts, like the dialogue. This was something that I managed to get, I guess, fixed for me in a sort of way, but yeah, I have never had to increase the volume of a console game by 13.6 decibels. You know, usually, you know, I can balance things out in the menus, but this game, I think they need to double the volume slider volume thing of the dialogue voice, and you know, maybe we'll be good at that point. I don't know what happened there. The music is also on multiple wavelengths. In some scenes and fights, it's perfectly balanced, while in other cases, it's considerably louder than any other music in the game. This happens a lot with like certain, I don't know what they're called, like elites or whatever, you know, like stagger enemies versus maybe like boss enemies or hunt enemies or something like that. There are some fights where they'll have this loud, bombastic music, and then like normal fights will just have, you know, like normal wavelength music. So there's that too. For the music, I feel like the OST was good, but I also didn't feel like I heard much of it, likely due to the volume of it. There were some standout segments, though. There were some tracks where, you know, I managed to catch them, probably like boss fights, like the Typhon fight, I think, you know, like music was like, ooh, you know, okay, got some music. For voice acting, I like the voice acting of pretty much every character. Yeah, I think everybody did a really good job, so, you know, shout out to all the voice actors out there. For graphics, I think the graphics look great. No complaints from me. For replay value, does the game offer additional story content in a second playthrough to warrant playing the game again? I doubt it. Lovely Bibliophile mentioned earlier that there is a new game plus, but it's probably going to be the same story. You know, I highly doubt you're going to be able to play as Dion or Sid or something like that, which would be totally cool. Even playing as Jill would be super cool. Playing as Joshua, super cool. But you know, I don't think that's ever going to happen. So I'll come back to that, I guess, but the likelihood of that is no. I don't think there's going to be anything like that. Is the game worth recommending? I would probably say so. I think the story could have been told in a different way, but the combat is super nice, and I think for what we have of the characters are super nice. I think this game is absolutely worth recommending. If the developer is watching, I can say that this is an interesting direction for Final Fantasy to go. I think I mentioned in one of the earlier days when I was playing that it's very interesting that people out there have a certain outlook of what Final Fantasy games should be, and I'm a person that doesn't really have that. Like, I don't look at a Final Fantasy game and be like, yes, this is a Final Fantasy game, and then that game over there is not a Final Fantasy game. You know, I just look at the title and I'm like, okay, this is Final Fantasy. So when I go into this game, maybe what feels off to me is that maybe I do have a definition of what Final Fantasy games are, and maybe this game does something where my thoughts on it are disrupted in some way. I'm not 100% sure how to put it into words because I haven't even figured it out myself. But there is something different about this game that is not what one would expect from a Final Fantasy game, I guess, or maybe what one would expect from an action game. And it's an interesting pairing, I suppose. I think what I would want more is, I think people out there want to describe this as something akin to Game of Thrones, and along those lines, I really wish that there was more focus on the characters and the political intrigue involved with this, because that's where my interest is. Like, I want to focus on that so much more. The different realms and how they're interacting, and the dominance. Some of them are basically in charge, and some of them are not. There's room for that, but even above that, I wanted to see the characters in this game shine a lot more than they did. And if there's a Final Fantasy 17 that takes after Final Fantasy 16, I would love to see a more character-focused approach where, you know, like, we focus on these characters and their interactions with each other throughout the entire game, and the antagonists are right alongside them. And, you know, we're weaving in and out of interactions with, you know, all of these characters to the point where at the end, it's going to feel absolutely satisfying killing the final boss, because we know all there is to know about them, and we've interacted with them so much, and we've grown to hate them or love them or what have you. So I think that's one of the more crucial things that was missing from this game for me. But if, you know, do I want a sequel? Absolutely. I will 1000% take a sequel to Final Fantasy, because Final Fantasy games are typically almost always fun, you know, or enjoyable. So I dig it. But yeah, to reiterate my overall thoughts, I had fun with the game. I don't necessarily know where I sit when it comes to if I liked the game or not. But I guess, you know, sometimes it just plays out that way. I certainly wish I had a lot more written down about the game because I feel like there's so much to talk about when it comes to like just this game in general. But you know, them's the ropes sometimes. Looking at chat here, since the credits are not done, it's not every day that the credits keep rolling when I'm done with my thoughts, but you know, here we go. Manadride's talking about the singer. I think you confused with someone else whose name you don't remember, but it's a very soft voice with high tones. Sounded similar. Singer from Lamp and Terran. This is a Witcher clone with Final Fantasy title and some reused assets from Final Fantasy. Oof. Hope nobody's saying that. Or a Final Fantasy game that tries to be a Western game. I don't know if I would go that far. I don't think I'm on board with that.
Oh. Every time.
Will you light it?
Yes, Mother.
Oh, the medicine girl.
Come on. If only I had the flames of an icon.
Icon? Have you been reading that silly story again? Magic belongs in fairy tales, and fairy tales don't boil kettles. You see? Well done. Now, be a good lad, and play with your brother until supper.
Come on, hurry! Hurry! All right. Right, let's play the Saint in the Secretary. No, I don't want to be Madu. What do you want to play then? War of the Icons! Again? Well, all right. And I get to be a freak. Right, I'm the older brother. Because Bahamut says so.
Bell with one journey ends. Dot, dot, dot. Yes, I will do that. We'll create a different save file for that, sure. Alright, New Game Plus is now available from the title screen. This option allows you to start a new game with player and item data carried over from a previous playthrough. Gameplay mode Final Fantasy is also now available to use exclusively with New Game Plus. Final Fantasy gameplay mode offers the following: increased enemy strength, an increased player level cap to level 100, new gear and items, mode exclusive content. This mode is recommended for players who wish to test their limits. Alrighty, that's everything, I guess. So I guess there was literally nothing about the medicine girl. Absolutely nothing. The biggest and most important mystery of this entire game is why the medicine girl is getting so much attention and how she was on the character map And the medicine girl is just the medicine girl? I don't know about all that now. Might have to start consulting the internets and figure stuff out. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for me. I got to go get some food. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. I'll be back Monday, 7 a.m. Pacific. Oh, you know what? Before I bounce out of here, I just got to say one other thing. The ending of this game was actually fairly quick. And I have to say that the whole idea of, oh, it's the end of the game, let me put you through a super long final dungeon, maybe with a bunch of mini bosses in there, and then you fight the main boss at the end. You know, that can get very tiring sometimes. And so I really appreciate this game was just like, here's the final boss. Fight him like 3 times, and you're good. So, thank you, video game. But yeah, I'll be back Monday, 7 a.m. Pacific, and we're going to be playing something new. Who knows what that's going to be. So, see ya the next time I see ya. Peace.